بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا مولانا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك وعلمنا من لدنك علما ينفعنا في الدين والدنيا يا كريم. أما بعد, سيد ابن عطاء الله رحمه الله تعالى says, ما أرادت همة سالك أن تقف عندما كشف لها إلا ونادته هواتف الحقيقة الذي تطلب أمامك، ولا تبرجت ظواهر المكونات إلا ونادته حقائقها إنما نحن فتنة فلا تكفر.
Hardly does Bismillah. Hardly does the intention of the initiate want to stop at what has been revealed to him. Then the voices of reality call out to him. That which you are looking for is still ahead of you, and hardly to the exterior aspects of created beings display their charms, then their inner realities call out to him. We are only a trial, so disbelieve not.
No. So Ibn Ata'illah rahimahullah ta'ala, we've been through 20 hikmahs till now, 20 words of aphorism. Now Ibn Ata'illah, he's imagining that the person reading this book is someone who is on their journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we're all on our journey in different ways. Anyway, someone who is consciously trying to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wants to learn. So he's imagining that a person has read the first 20 hikmahs, and that the murid, the person trying to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who wants Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has now surrendered themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so now he's imagining that khalas, you have corrected your relationship with yourself, with others, with dunya, and with your own a'mal, your own actions. So he's not going to focus on that right now. And he's imagining that you've started to really do some sincere work. You've surrendered to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala totally. And you're acting upon what you're supposed to act upon. You're doing your job in life. You've looked at the reality that you are in, and you've looked for what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking you to do, and you do. Bismillah. Now in this case, you should continue and never stop as long as you're alive. Until you reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you should never stop. And you shouldn't have a goal that you're trying to achieve other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, other than pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, other than getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, subhanallah, usually a person who is going through this journey, person who's done a lot of work, might witness things, might see things. He might start to have dreams, might start to have inspiration, might start to have visions, might start to have kashf. All are different things that could happen. Okay? So Ibn Ata'illah says, ما أرادت همة سالك أن تقف عندما كشف لها إلا ونادته هواتف الحقيقة الذي تطلب أمامك. Hardly, or in Arabic it's never, does the intention of the intentee want to stop. Imagine you're trying to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you see something that's really amazing, and you get distracted for a moment. Whenever you get distracted and you're about to stop and you think, khalas, this is everything, this is all I could imagine, this is all I could wish for. Okay? It says, إِلَّا وَنَادَتْهُ هَوَاتِفُ الْحَقِّ. The voices of reality. These are not actual voices that you hear, but reality and the signs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put around you call you. What you've learned about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala call you. You wake up. The lessons that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught you get into your mind. The people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remind you that this is not what you're looking for. Continue. Don't get distracted. إِنَّ الَّذِي تَطْلُبُ أَمَامَكَ. And the same thing when different aspects of creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala display their charms. When, subhanallah, things that you'd never have noticed in the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should be shown to you. It's as if they are Harut and Marut, the two people in Surah Al-Baqarah who said to those who they used to know magic. They said to the people who were trying to learn magic from them, إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ فِتْنَةٌ فَلَا تَكْفُرْ. We are only a fitna. We're only a trial, so don't commit kufr. Don't forget your goal. This is your state with everything around you. You should only try to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So some of the words that Ibn Āṭā used here, the first term that he used is himmatu salik. Okay, so the intention of the salik, of the murid, of the person who wants to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the intention here in his words means whatever makes you strive. Okay, whatever pushes you to continue this, that's what he meant by intention. So if the power behind you that is pushing you to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides to stop, you feel like khalas, this is somewhere where I am comfortable, then if you are sincere, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send you a sign to wake you up and tell you don't be deceived by what you see. And when he says that the intention would never stop until you are called back, to stop means to think that you've reached the end. To think that you've reached the end. And the voices of reality are the signs and inspiration that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places in everything around you. That's pretty clear, inshallah ta'ala. But if anyone didn't understand hikmah, then that's just a reminder of what Ibn Āṭā means. Now, Ibn Āṭā, what does he mean by this? What's he trying to get to by this hikmah? Basically, like I said, usually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you're on your journey, He will teach you things of the unseen. And you are supposed to get from these lessons that you learn of the unseen, you're supposed to understand the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These things are supposed to show you how great Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. Now, if you start to get distracted by them, then you need to remind yourself. So if you started your path now, just remember that you're not going to stop until you reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing is going to stop you. There's never a time in your life where you're going to stop worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where you're going to want to be less close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's always another level to achieve. There's always another level to achieve, get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, when you're going towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are so many levels that the scholars say they are unlimited. There's no limit to the levels to which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's always a level on top of the level that you're in. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Yusuf, وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. On top of everyone has knowledge, there's someone more knowledgeable. Now, usually, the scholars of Tasawwuf, when they talk about knowledge in the Quran, they say the ultimate knowledge is the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, if you have been shown through what you've seen, the visions that you have been seeing, you've been shown signs in the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that teach you something, okay, about the actions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which means the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ability of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's one level. Science might teach you things about the ability of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and some facts to do with the actions of Allah, which means the creation and the different things that He creates and He does in this world. That is only one level. So if you see many signs that show you this and teach you this, know that you still haven't learned anything to do with the sciences and the signs in the world that will teach you about the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you have signs that show you things that teach you about the names of Allah, you see the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything. You know, subhanallah, the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say that every name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has something to do with the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's signs of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything. And this, you know, subhanallah, to the point that Imam al-Jazuli in the Dalail al-Khairat, you know, one of the du'as he makes is أسألك بالأسماء باسمك الذي وضعته على الليل فأظلم على النهار فاستنار وعلى السماوات فاستقلت وعلى الأرض فاستقرت. That I ask you by the name of you, okay, that you use to make the darkness happen, and enlighten the universe, and the names of you that you used to do this and to do that, and the names of you that are written on the forehead of Jibreel alayhi salam. So subhanAllah, the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a science that some people might see, might witness in their journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's one level of knowledge about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing His names, knowing the true meanings of His names and the secrets behind His names. It's a huge science. So if you see that on your journey, then know that there's still levels of knowledge above that. And that is the level of knowledge of the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? And if you learn about the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's still levels above that, and that is the level to understand about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And no one can understand the full truth about about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself. So no one is able to get the closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All we can do is just try to achieve levels upon levels until we die, until we get as close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as we can. That's all we're able to do. But the levels of knowledge are unlimited for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even the scholars say even for the people of the hereafter. It's still unlimited for them. So what about us in this dunya? It's subhanallah, there's only so much we can learn, and there's so much to learn, subhanallah. That's why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we know the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had definitely reached the highest level of knowledge about Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, had witnessed and seen through the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala things that others haven't seen in his journey of Isra and Mi'raj. And we are in the days that we celebrate Isra and Mi'raj now. We know that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he reached the level where the angels themselves haven't ever reached before. And he witnessed things, colors and things that others haven't even witnessed and didn't even know exist. And he saw creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that others haven't seen. Okay, and then we find the Prophet ﷺ at the end of his life, and he used to receive directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he spoke to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly. We find that he said, "La uhsi thana'an alayk." I cannot count your praise. You are to be praised the way you praise yourself. There's no way I can praise you enough, because I don't know enough about you. So Ibn Āṭā, like he said, mentions that the salik, the person on the journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, shouldn't be distracted by what they see, and the goal should be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of all of these things. He is the one who's calling you towards Him. He is the one who's calling you towards Him. And subhanAllah, some of the lines of poetry of Imam Shishri say, لا تلتفت في السير غيرا فكلما سوى الله غيرا فاتخذ ذكره حسنا. Don't be distracted on your journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by other than Him. And everything that is not Him is other than Him. And subhanAllah, there's so many different words and meanings the scholars mention that teach us this meaning. Your goal should be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you should use the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ibn Āṭā rahimahullah ta'ala, after that he goes to the next hikmah 21. He says, طلبك منه اتهام له وطلبك له غيبة منك عنه وطلبك لغيره لقلة حيائك منه وطلبك من غيره لوجود بعدك عنه.
Your requesting Him is suspecting Him. Your seeking Him is due to your absence from Him. Your seeking someone else is because of your immodesty towards Him. Your requesting someone else is on account of your distance from Him.
This hikmah talks about 4 different states of a person: requesting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeking other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and requesting other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And every one of these have a different meaning that we should understand. What is Ibn Āṭā saying when he says that you requesting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is suspecting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What does that mean? What's he trying to get to here? Okay. Ibn Āṭā, when he talks about requesting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he means that asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay, while putting all your trust and hope in your dua, okay, using your dua as just totally a means to achieve what you want. And you think that you have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to get what you want. You don't look at your dua as an act of worship. You don't look at your dua as an act of humility, an act to bring you closer towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your focus is on asking Him to get what you want. You're in a transaction. Okay? Having that mentality is not right. Having that mentality isn't the proper mentality a Muslim should have. So he says, questioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, putting your trust and hope in your dua, and thinking that's the only way to achieve what you want, is wrong. That is accusing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Instead, your dua should be a means of showing your need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and an act of worship and dedication. The second state he talks about is seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which means that you see your actions a means to discover Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is hidden from you, and that through your actions you can discover Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? That means you are far away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, while you should understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is close to you already. He's already close to you. You don't need to find him. But you need to remove whatever is blocking you witnessing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What the sickness and the illnesses that you have that are blocking you from reaching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your mentality when you are trying to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shouldn't be that I'm going to find him through what I do. No, it should be that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there and I'm getting rid of myself and I'm just focused on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Seeking other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means you're trying to get a benefit through what you do. Whether it's something in this life or the next life, physical in this life or the next life. You're trying to get something that benefits you through anything you do, through your ibadah, through your amal, through your actions, whatever you do, you're trying to achieve things other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is what he means by saying seeking other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and requesting other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, it means that when we request things from people in this life and we hold on to them, when we ask people and we hold on to people, someone has a boss in work, and when they want to achieve something, they go and they beg the boss and they humiliate themselves in front of their boss as if their boss can help them and can replace Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should always have a hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not in anyone of his creation. So Imam Sharqawi, he summarizes all. He says all kinds of asking and requests include a lack of sincerity, other than asking out of worship and showing your need towards Allah. It's the only type of question in asking that doesn't have a lack of sincerity or a lack of adab in it. Asking through showing your humility and need to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or you ask for things that bring you close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's another thing that the Sufi talk about. You ask for things that bring you close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but your hope is in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even if you ask for something dunyawi, you are not asking for that thing in order just to achieve it, but you actually want to show Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala your need for him and that you are slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't care if he gives you that thing or not. You don't care if he gives you that thing or not. Now, the question that we probably all have in our head now is, should we make dua and ask? What is Ibn Āṭā saying here? We learn that we should always make dua towards Allah. So the answer is that this hikmah is about a person surrendering to the qadr, to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not refusing whatever Allah ta'ala has decreed. As al-Arabi would say, the true faqir doesn't actually have anything to ask for. So you're so content and happy with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, there's nothing that you would even want to ask for. If you've got a whole list of things that you want to get in your life and you want to achieve, then revise yourself, revise your sincerity, and revise your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A true faqir, a true Sufi, doesn't actually have anything to ask for. And if he has to ask for something, he would ask to have more understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the question is, should we make dua or should we not make dua? Okay? Should we make dua or should we just keep silent and quiet all the time? Now, as the scholars say, this is a matter of dispute between the Sufis. So the Sufiya throughout history have differed. Is it better to keep silent and be happy, or to make a lot of dua? And as Ibn Ajiba says, the chosen opinion, as Ibn Ajiba mentions, is that it depends on your state. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might put you in a state where you need to show your need towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so you make dua and you ask. You ask for things that are good, things that always have something to do with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And sometimes you might be in a state where you have to accept the qadr. The qadr is really tough and hard on you, and it's crushing you. And it's out of adab, you should just let things happen. You, by asking and being unhappy with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to you, in that case, you shouldn't make dua. You should just be quiet and be happy and learn to be happy with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has declared. With whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has declared. And we'll give you an example for this. So, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, okay, we know that when he was young, he was brought up in a place that was full of idol worshippers, and he was calling towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And his wife believed in him, and Lut alayhi salam, but the majority of people didn't believe in him. The king of that town was known as al-Namrud, and he was one of the kings that was said to have ruled the whole entire world at that time. He was very barbaric, and he would punish people in different ways and forms. He chose that Ibrahim alayhi salam, he declared that Ibrahim alayhi salam has to be burnt alive. So the narrations say that they put him in a cannon, okay, or in something like that, and they threw him into a huge fire that they had been lighting for days and days and days. Now Ibrahim alayhi salam, as the narration of Prophet says in one of the hadith, حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل, or as Ibn Abbas said, قالها إبراهيم عليه السلام لما ألقي في النار. When Ibrahim was being thrown in the fire, all he said, what did he say? He said, حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is everything. And Rasulullah said it also when he was faced in battle, and they said, إن الناس قد جمعوا. They've outnumbered you. You're lost. You're gone. He said, حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, why did he make dua? Ya Allah, make sure this fire goes away. Ya Allah, give me, an easy life. Give me everything in the world, so that I can show my gratitude towards you. Because Ibrahim alayhi salam knew that in this state, in this case, it's a test, and when you know it's a test, khalas, you should just take the test and be happy with the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hasbunallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of everything else. You don't have to worry about it. It's in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. While Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, in other cases, okay, when he was worried about not doing enough, about not leaving enough behind, he was accusing himself of not doing enough, he went to dua. What did he say? رَبِّ هَبْ لِي حُكْمًا وَأَلْحِقْنِي بِالصَّالِحِينَ جعل لي لسان صدق في الآخرين وجعلني من ورثة جنة النعيم. Also, رب اجعل هذا البلد آمنا وارزق أهله من الثمرات. Oh Allah, I made dua that Mecca becomes a place of barakah and people go towards Mecca, and made dua for his grandchildren and his children, and he also made dua for his hereafter. رب ولا تخزني يوم يبعثون يوم لا ينفع مال ولا بنون إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. So Ibrahim alayhi salam used to make dua in other cases. So it depends on the state of the Muslim. When you're in a state that you just want to get rid of the situation you're in and you're just disappointed, and it's a test, you just have to deal with it. There's no way out of it. When you know it's a test, khalas, accept it. Say hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakeel, and let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do what He wants. And the last hikmah, it's very short, that Ibn ʿAṭā illāh ta'ala mentions here is مَا مِن نَفَسٍ تُبْدِي إِلَّا وَلَهُ قَدْرٌ فِيكَ يُمْضِيهِ.
Not a breath do you expire, but a decree of destiny makes it go forth.
Ibn ʿAṭā illāh ta'ala, what he's saying here is that, now we know we talked about qadr, yeah? That everything is to the qadr, and that you should be happy with the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is something that you should always have in mind when you're on your way towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, not only is everything decreed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you don't even take a breath, except that breath itself is decreed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if every breath you take is decreed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what about other things? What about your wealth? What about your future? What about work? What about pain and gain? It's all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why Ibn Ajib, he talks beautifully about this. He says, إذا علمت أيها الإنسان أن أنفاسك قد عمها القدر. If you know, of human beings, that even your breath is under the qadr, under the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ولا يصدر منك ولا من غيرك إلا ما سبق به علمه وجرى به قلمه. And that nothing happens from you or from others except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed it. لازمك أن ترضى بكل ما يجري به القضاء. Then you should be happy with everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decrees. فأنفاسك معدودة، طرفاتك ولحظاتك محصورة. Your breath is counted. He knows every single breath you take and every step you take. فإذا انتهى آخر أنفاسك رحلت إلى آخرتك. The moment your last breath, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows you're going to breathe how many breaths in your life? A million, trillion breaths, whatever it is. The last breath you have, the next moment you'll be in your akhirah. You're not going to be in this dunya anymore. وإذا كانت الأنفاس معدودة فما بالك بالخطوات والخطرات. So if your breaths are counted, then what about your steps and what about your thoughts? ولله در القائل مشيناها خطا كتبت علينا ومن كتبت عليه خطا مشاها ومن قسمت منيته بأرض فليس يموت أو في أرض سواها ليس يموت في أرض سواها. And he says حقيقة الرضا, the true meaning of being content and happy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is تلقي المهالك بوجه ضاحك, accepting the calamities and the hardships with a happy laughing face. And we have seen this from some of the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When they're in the hardest of situations ever, find them laughing. And I've seen this with my Shaykh many times. وحقيقة التسليم استواء النقمة والنعيم. And the real meaning of taslim, surrendering to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that a blessing and a calamity are the same to you. بحيث لا يختار بأيهما يقيم. So that you don't even choose where you stay, whether you stay in calamity or in a blessing, it's not up to you, you don't even choose. وهذا هو مقام أهل الكمال الذين تحققوا بالزوال. And this is the rank of the people of Kamal, the people who have reached the highest rank of human beings in this life, that know that this life is temporary. حققوا بالزوال. نفعنا الله بذكرهم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit us from just mentioning them. Just by mentioning them, we get blessings and barakah. وخرطنا في سلكهم آمين. And that is the end of this hikmah. Allah ta'ala a'lam. صلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Shall I say any questions?
جزاكم الله خيرا شيخ.
وإياك. Inshallah. Here's my question. Then we'll end inshallah. صلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Remind everyone to make dua before Maghrib, the last hour of Jum'ah, or the last hour of Jum'ah is very blessed. And don't forget your brothers and sisters in Palestine, inshallah ta'ala.
جزاك الله خير شيخ. السلام عليكم.